Welcome to Levant TV Headlines. More than 130,000 Syrian Kurds have fled across the border into Turkey as the PKK leader Dursun Kalkan accused the Turkish government of collaboration with the ISIS radicals. Houthi rebels are holding their position around key government offices and army bases in the Yemeni capital Sana'a, which they captured without resistance just hours before the signing of a UN-brokered peace agreement. And indirect talks between Palestine and Israel on consolidating the Gaza truce are set to resume in Cairo on Wednesday, shortly after reconciliation negotiations between Hamas and Fatah. Iran and Saudi Arabia held their first foreign minister-level meeting since 2013 election of President Hassan Rouhani, as Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif called it a new page in relations. And US Secretary of State John Kerry discussed the threat of Islamic militants with Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif in New York yesterday and discussed progress in nuclear negotiations. And now let's take a look at top headlines in today's newspapers in the Middle East. Starting from Beirut, the Daily Star reports that hundreds of protesters have stepped up action against the government blocking a vital highway linking Beirut with the Bekaa Valley to force authorities to speed up the release of at least 21 servicemen held captive by Islamist militants. The paper also reports that Saudi Arabia appealed to Lebanon to unite and elect a new president to protect the country against looming dangers and avert civil strife. From the UAE, the Khalij Times leads reporting that investors are coming in droves to this year's Cityscape Global, which is being touted as the largest in history, with 280 exhibitors from 28 countries gathering for the most influential real estate show in the Middle East. The paper also reports that rebels seized the Yemeni government headquarters yesterday and the premier resigned as violence raged despite a UN announcement of a power-sharing deal to end days of fighting. The Egypt Independent is reporting that Alexandria Court of Appeals has accepted a challenge submitted by the defense of political activist Mahinur al-Masri to suspend a prison sentence of 2 years and a fine of 50,000 Egyptian pounds for violating the protest law, a verdict that was issued by a lower court. The paper also reports that a security source says the political activist Ahmed Douma was transferred from Tora Prison Hospital to a hospital outside of prison to undergo medical tests. And now let's have a look at top MidEast headlines from papers here in the UK. The Guardian reports that Iran and Saudi Arabia have held their first foreign minister-level meeting since the 2013 election of President Hassan Rouhani, signaling a possible thaw in relations between the rival Gulf powers. The paper adds that the Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif suggested after his meeting in New York with his Saudi counterpart Prince Saud al-Faisal that the talks could lead to an improvement in relations. The Telegraph leads Middle East news reporting that more than 130,000 Syrian Kurds have fled across the border into Turkey, escaping an advance by Islamic State jihadists. The paper says Turkey's PKK Kurdish rebel group has called on fellow Kurds to cross into Syria and combat ISIS insurgents besieging a town near the border. Also from the UK, The Independent reports that a former Prime Minister Tony Blair has urged Britain not to rule out sending ground troops to combat the Islamic State, arguing airstrikes are not enough to defeat the terrorist group. The paper says in a 6,500-word essay published on his website, the former Premier said he fully accepted there is no appetite for ground engagement in the West, but it may be necessary. Now let's have a look at top MidEast headlines in international papers. From Germany, the Deutsche Welle reports that German Foreign Minister Frank-Walter Steinmeier has reiterated that Germany will not get involved in US and French airstrikes against Islamic State jihadists in Iraq and Syria, and has also ruled out ground deployments. The paper says Steinmeier added that the international alliance, including the US, France, Britain and Italy, formed to fight the ISIS, and its brutalities foresaw a division of work. And finally, the Washington Post reports that hundreds of Iraqi soldiers were trapped or missing after a chaotic retreat from an army base in western Iraq yesterday, underscoring the ability of Islamic State insurgents to remain on the offensive despite expanded airstrikes by the United States. And for more updates, visit our website levant.tv. Thanks for watching and bye for now.